Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer. We're going to unpack something truly remarkable today. Have you ever poured a glass of wine and stopped to think about how simple grape juice transforms into something so incredibly complex and varied? It's like a giant puzzle, part science, part art, and honestly, entirely magical. By the end of this Explainer, you're going to have a crystal clear understanding of exactly how your favorite wines are crafted. And hey, to make this super easy to understand and memorize, just keep an eye on the subtitles and visual signs we've put together for you. Okay, here's our roadmap for today's journey. We're going to cover 1. The magic of fermentation, 2. Red wine, skin deep, 3. White wine, gentle pressing, 4. Rosé, the short maceration, and finally 5. Maturation and packaging. Okay, let's dive right into this. Section 1. The magic of fermentation. If you only memorize one thing today, make it this formula right here, because it's literally the universal foundation, the absolute engine of all winemaking, alcoholic fermentation. So this whole thing is driven by tiny microorganisms called yeast, and these yeast cells, they are hungry. They absolutely feast on the natural sugars found inside the grape juice. Now, as they consume those sugars, they pump out 3 byproducts. First, alcohol. Second, carbon dioxide gas, which just bubbles up and escapes into the atmosphere. And third, heat. It's this super dynamic, bubbling, active process that literally changes the chemistry of the juice. Now, when the yeast finally consumes all that sugar, the process just stops naturally. And what you're left with is what we call a dry wine. Depending on how much sugar was packed into those grapes to begin with, most of these dry wines will end up hitting an alcohol by volume, or ABV, right in the 11.5 to 16% range. Moving right along to Section 2, red wine, skin deep. So, now that we understand the engine, let's explore our very first branching path, making dry red wine. I want you to lock this exact visual sequence into your memory, okay? Step 1 is crushing, where the grape skins are split open to release the juice. Step 2 is alcoholic fermentation. Step 3 is draining, and Step 4 is pressing. Oh, and here is the absolute golden rule. Red wine must be made from black grapes, no exceptions. Like I said, keep these signs and steps visually locked in your mind, because this specific sequence is the defining characteristic of a red wine. Notice how the crushed skins and the liquid go into the fermentation vessel together. Yep, the grape skins stay right there in the vat during the entire alcoholic fermentation process. This is absolutely critical, guys, because those skins, they hold all the color and all the tannins. So as the fermentation happens, those skins are steeping in the liquid, kind of like a giant tea bag, extracting that beautiful deep red color and structure. But keeping the skins in the vat creates a bit of a mechanical headache for the winemaker. Remember that heat and carbon dioxide we just talked about in the fermentation equation? Well, that heat and gas literally push the grape skins right up to the top of the fermenting juice, forming this thick floating layer that we call the cap. And if you just leave it floating there undisturbed, no way, you won't extract nearly enough color and tannin. So to fix this, winemakers use 2 really common methods. On the left, we have punching down. This uses a physical plunger to literally shove the cap back down into the liquid. And on the right, pumping over. This method takes liquid from the very bottom of the vessel up through a hose and sprays it over the top of the cap. Both techniques achieve the exact same crucial goal of extraction. Let's shift gears to Section 3, white wine, gentle pressing. Now let's see how the timeline builds and changes for this next category. Get ready, because this is one of my absolute favorite facts in all of winemaking. White wine can actually be made from black grapes. Wait, what? How is that possible? Well, it's because the color of a grape is almost exclusively found in its skin. The pulp and juice inside a black grape are actually completely clear. So sure, white wines are generally made from white grapes, but if a winemaker uses a super gentle touch when pressing black grapes, they can extract that clear juice without picking up any of the dark color from the skins. Mind-blowing, right? Check out the visual signs here and notice the subtle shift in the timeline compared to red wine. For white wine, the typical order is crushing, then pressing, and then alcoholic fermentation. See that? Step 2 is now pressing. This means the grape skins are squeezed in a machine to extract all the liquid, and then those skins are completely discarded before the magic of fermentation even begins. So the crucial point to lock into your memory, the big takeaway here, is this simple swap in the timeline. Red wine, you ferment with the skins, then drain and press. White wine, you press the skins away first and then ferment the clear juice. It's such a brilliant, elegant swap in the process, but it completely changes what ends up in your glass. Let's jump to the middle ground. Section 4, Rosé, the short maceration. To understand rosé, you really just need to combine what you now know about red and white wine. The most common method is called short maceration. So just like a red wine, it uses black grapes, and the alcoholic fermentation starts exactly the same way, juice and skins together in the vat. But instead of leaving them together for the whole shebang, the juice is drained from the skins after just a few hours. That brief contact is just enough to give the wine its signature pink color. After draining, the fermentation continues exactly like a white wine, usually at those lower white wine making temperatures. Real quick, before we move on, let's bust a super common myth. A lot of people just assume you can take finished red wine and finished white wine, dump them together in a big bucket, and boom, you've got rosé. Well, while that blending method does technically exist, I need to emphatically state that this method is strictly not permitted in many parts of Europe. So when you're sipping on a classic European rosé, you know for sure it was crafted through that careful, short maceration process, not just a simple mix and match. Okay, on to the final stages of our journey, Section 5, Maturation and Packaging. So we've crushed, we've pressed, and we've fermented. Now, once that alcoholic fermentation is completely finished, the newly made wine doesn't usually go straight into a bottle. Nope, it enters a storage or maturation phase. For most wines, this period is relatively short. We're talking less than a year, sometimes just a few months. And during this short storage, the flavors change very little. However, some wines are stored for extended periods to actively develop their flavors and body. This extended maturation normally takes place in vessels made from oak, though it's definitely worth noting an interesting exception here. Rosés are rarely, if ever, stored or matured in oak. Finally, the wine is ready for packaging. Now, while classic glass bottles are still by far the most popular form of packaging used for wine globally, the industry has really embraced a tremendous variety of vessels. You're also going to find wine beautifully preserved in bag-and-box formats, plastic bottles, and even carton bricks, like Tetra Paks. And there you have it. We've covered the complete journey from a simple cluster of grapes to the final package, relying on just a few basic steps and the sheer magic of yeast. But, it leaves us with a pretty fascinating question. We learned today that the dark, thick skin of a black grape can yield a perfectly clear, delicate white wine if the winemaker just presses it gently enough. So it makes you wonder, if winemakers can so masterfully manipulate extraction to completely bend the rules of color and flavor, what other incredible secrets and rule-breaking techniques are hiding in the cellars of the world? Keep that curiosity alive the next time you pour yourself a glass. Thanks so much for watching and keep learning.